in Akwa Basibon State. Beautiful Monday morning it is, the 4th of December already, and we are glad to rise and shine all the way from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. My name is Uyai Anekan. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
And I am Francis Uyimaidet. Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine. Of course, as a new day, we are very happy, delighted to be here with you. As always, we will be here talking Nigeria, taking you around the latest happenings and development from around the world. Of course, we'll always encourage you to join the conversations. The phone numbers on your screen, across social media platforms, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. We'll be glad to hear from you this morning as we progress.
Of course, it's Rise and Shine again, and we have quite a number of issues on the table. Every big issue that has happened since Friday, and some of them happening this morning, we just look into some of these stories today. Of course, just a quick rundown of some of the conversations we'll be having. Of course, the second Niger Bridge is one of the infrastructure that was put together by the Muhammad Buhari-led administration, and we see that Julius Berger has handed over that particular bridge to the federal government. We also see that there was local government elections in Ekiti State, and the All Progressives Congress has won all seats across board. We also see back in Akwa Ibom State, the state government has hired 500 community policing members. Community policing remains a conversation. We'll look in depthly into that this morning. Of course, on the heels of the COP28 summit being held in Dubai, there are 7 climate issues that were raised and certain announcements made. And we'll be looking at that this morning. But the biggest story of this Monday morning, stemming from all that has been trending over the weekend, His Excellency Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, reacted to the number of delegates that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took to Abu Dhabi for the COP28 summit, and looked at all the other indices as it pertains to the economy, the GDP, and everything. This is a strong conversation that we're going to be having this morning. If you've already been following it on the social media, you take advantage of our phone lines that will be displayed on your screen. You can call us, you can send us WhatsApp messages or text messages, and we'll be glad to take your contributions. Also, take advantage of our social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtvlive.ng. At this point, we head straight to our flash news.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Well, we start off with the very first flash news this morning. We see that the federal government has taken over the second Niger Bridge from the contractor Julius Berger. Of course, this comes 6 months after it was commissioned by the immediate past administration of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, precisely on May 23rd. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, while addressing journalists shortly after the contractors handed over the bridge, said the level of work done on the bridge was satisfactory. Kozumai was led around the bridge by the managing director of Julius Berger, Dr. Lars Richter. Of course, the minister commended the previous and present administration, talking about the outgoing administration of President Muhammadu Buhari and President Ahmed Bola Tinubu for the work that has been done, and praised the federal government for its commitment to ensure great infrastructural development to the people of the country. We are just, going through this news. I don't know whether to celebrate or whether to cry or to shed tears for the country called Nigeria. Remember, shortly after The second Niger Bridge was commissioned as at the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. We had acts of vandalism in the tunes of millions of naira. And of course, shortly after that, the federal government came out decrying the situation. Now, the question I would like to ask at this point, and the questions of concerns the Nigerians would ask at this point. Yes, the second Niger Bridge has been, completed this time around, handed over to the government, and I'm sure within the shortest possible time, we will be rolling out the drums to, officially inaugurate the second Niger Bridge. But what are the modalities put in place? Are Nigerians even ready to begin to own infrastructures put in place within their respective communities? I mean, just literally looking at the span of the road, you see how beautiful it is. But I can bet you, go back to this place in the next 1 month, in the next 2 months, we're going to begin to see acts of vandalism happening. How do we and how will we as a country balance, the sites when, infrastructures put in place by government is not being protected by the community that are cited in, or the generality of Nigerians?
Well, it's a big question that we continue to ask, and vandalism was a major issue after the first tranche of, handing over this particular bridge to the federal government. Now it's more like the total work has been done. Now it's going to be in the management and the purview of the federal government. But we have continued to have conversations around the fact that communities around the second Niger Bridge, the state as it were, need to do more than just, saying thank you for this particular, project that was done in their area, because of course it is for ease of transportation, ease of movement, for everyone around that access. It's a technical handover after the project was initially inaugurated by the former administration. Now, a technical, handover would also suggest that yes, Julius Berger has handed it over, but they're not going to be necessarily pulling up their hands entirely. Some work of management will still be done by Julius Berger, but then we really need to have the conversation about readiness of people of the adjoining states around the second Niger Bridge and what they intend to do. Remember that just before the last administration left, they had said they were going to mount CCTV cameras on that particular bridge to be able to keep track of the activities and curtail the theft that was happening there. I mean, people were pulling out rods, pulling out all kinds of things, running into hundreds of millions of naira at the time. Now that this work has been brought to this extent, we do hope that it's not going to be sabotaged by these same Nigerians who would also come out and say that the government is not doing enough. Remember that this second Niger Bridge was a massive project that several administrations shied away from doing. But the Muhammadu Buhari administration decided to take it on. It's a very capital-intensive project, and they took it on. At this extent, at this level where we see that Julius Berger has actually handed it over to the federal government, it suffices to say that the work has been completely done to a very large extent. Whatever might be remaining, if at all, will just be finishing touches. It's therefore important for us to say that when the federal government is able to do for us out of the miserly funds that they have, or out of the funds they can set aside apart from the things that they're wasting, it's also important that we know that these things don't come around very often. So it should be our responsibility to make sure that they are safeguarded for the longevity of time. That bridge is meant to serve Nigeria and Nigerians nothing short of 50 years before the next major maintenance is going to be done on it. But if we keep having people going there and destroying things, then 50 years will not be something we can talk about in any time, close. Now, we had Dave Umahi pointing out that closed circuit cameras will be installed at the facility, including security personnel and surveillance and patrol every 5 minutes to enhance security on the bridge. This is very necessary. Of course, the managing director also said in his speech that this technical handover was necessary for us to know that the work is not going to be in their hands alone, but it's now going to be a collaborative effort between the federal government and Julius Berger to make sure that this work stands the test of time.
Well, it's a beautiful thing that the federal government is putting, modalities in place and measures in place to secure the area. We've also seen that There are plans in place to ensure street lights that will be powered by solar to ensure that there is, electricity in the area consistently. Of course, when you have light consistently, it will also contribute significantly to, weighting of criminal element. We also see that the road is not, fully completed yet. They said the road will be completed when other adjoining areas are fully completed, and then, of course, made passable for Nigerians, motorists, and commuters. Of course, this is a great achievement by the President Ahmed Bola Tinubu's administration. We'll also have to commend the immediate past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. I mean, it took a whole lot of, willpower on the part of President Muhammadu Buhari for that project to actually be kick-started. And it took another strength on the part of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to sustain that tempo for it to be completed. So definitely the economic importance of that road to the generality of Nigerians cannot be overemphasized. But at this point, I feel like, speaking to the hearts of Nigerians, so yeah, it is time for us to be, patriotic as individuals, as Nigerians. We know that things are hard in the country, but that hardship should not push you to destroy infrastructures that are put in place for the generality of the public. It should not push you to steal. So if these facilities are within your community, whether it's not in your community, maybe you're driving by, you're seeing something suspicious. And of course, you should be able to reach out. I think another thing that the federal government needs to also do, probably have a designated speed dial number of security agencies that people can readily call as far as that area is concerned. Maybe a special patrol squad set aside for the protection of the Niger bridges, at least for the longest time, until people get to that consciousness of protecting what is within their communities. And the people of the area also needs to rise up to the responsibility of protecting it, because if anything happens at this point in time, we'll be looking into repairing a road that has just been completed, when the government could have actually channeled that money into constructing another project. So at the long run, we cannot continue to blame government when we ourselves have not taken the responsibility to be patriotic and to be able to contribute a quota to even protecting the little. As most Nigerians will say, government has not done much, not done enough, they've done very little. So the very little that government is doing, we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to government to protect it unitedly, so that we can have a lot more of such projects, as opposed to, trying to find money to come fix the one that had been in place, as opposed to having new ones in place.
Well, that's very, very important. We do hope that we can put all of this together and move ourselves forward as a nation. But let's go all the way to Ekiti State, where we had local government elections being held in the course of the weekend. And big stories coming out of there. Now, one thing that we've recently heard the likes of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, say is that the All Progressives Congress is giving the body language of running the Nigerian system and the Nigerian democracy as a one-party system. And a lot of people say this doesn't sit well, especially because in the context of us trying to run a democracy. A lot of experts have said Nigeria is not yet practicing democracy, but civil rule. In all of this, we are journeying somewhere. But in Ekiti State, we see that elections were held, and the candidates of all Progressives Congress, the ruling party, won all 38 chairmanship and 177 councillorship seats in Saturday's council elections in Ekiti State. Now, the Ekiti State Independent Electoral Commission made the declaration at Ado Ekiti on Sunday. Of course, the returning officer in the local government areas and in the local council development areas took turns presenting the results of the various council areas at the headquarters of EKSIEC, of course, and that should be the Ekiti State Internal Electoral Commission. Now, the chairman, retired Justice Cornelius Akintayo, applauded the electorate in Ekiti for the peaceful conduct of the elections, commended parties that took part in the election for their sportsmanship. Now, also the staff members who worked for all of this. Now, the listing of political parties that participated in the election shows various ones from Action Alliance, ADC, Action Democratic Congress, ADP, African Democratic Party, the APC, We also had the Labour Party, the New Nigeria People's Party, Redemption Party, People's Redemption Party, I beg your pardon, PRP, Zenith Labour Party, ZLP. Now, all of these people were part of the people who ran for elections at the council level. Now, prominent opposition parties like the People's Democratic Party and the Social Democratic Party, SDP, had earlier, of course, also declared their disinterest in the council elections. So far so good, Francis. 38 seats for chairmanship and 177 for councillorship, all cleared by the APC. Big question, should this be celebrated or we should be worried?
Well, should we be celebrating? Should we be worried? I think Nigerians would say we need to be worried. And this is not just an APC thing. We've seen in states where the PDP are in charge, the PDP will always have a clean slate. If you have to narrow it back to a very immediate, very own backyard, Akwa Ibom State, we've had conversations of the electoral umpire, you know, being saturated with PDP members, card-carrying members of the People's Democratic Party as alleged by opposition. Of course, that was some of the conversation, that was part of the conversation that surfaced when Tekembo Moran was appointed as a resident electoral commissioner. So while the PDP, you know, took the federal government, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, the Senate president, to court over Tekembo Moran's, you know, candidacy or membership of a political party now being appointed as resident electoral commissioner. The questions were also raised: how many PDP card-carrying members, you know, are currently in charge of, you know, very sensitive position as far as accuracy is concerned, talking about the state electoral umpire. So it's been something that has been there. If you look into Akwa Ibom State, literally, the 31 local government areas, the local government chairman, the councillors are all members of the PDP. Now, if you leave Akwa Ibom State to other states where you have APC, for instance, you still also find that it's a clean slate for the political party. It seems literally like once there's a party at the center, at the state level, then at the local level, subnational, at the local government council level, you'll also see that those political parties would have a clean slate. It's more or less like a system in Nigerian politics that we cannot have, you know, the multiplicity of political parties winning the local government council election. And especially at this point in time, we are given what just, you know, played out during the just concluded general elections, one would have expected that, you know, across the states of the Federation, you'll find states where even if you have a PDP governor, for instance, you have the local government councils, you know, having different persons from different political parties winning the elections or getting the mandate of the people. Of course, this has been concerns raised by Nigerians, but will we ever get to that point where, you know, politicians allow the people to be the one to choose? Don't forget, in the Ekiti states, you know, just having conversations with people from there, you'll be told that one of the reasons the political parties, you know, began to boycott the election was because they already alleged that there was going to be a clean sweep for the APC, who of course are in charge of affairs of the state. So when people begin to have that mindset, when political parties already say, oh, this is what is going to happen, and then you wake up and see that that is what is happening, it shows that, you know, it's literally like somebody heading to court, and then, you know, between the respondent and litigant, the person is telling you whether or not you have evidence or you don't have, I'm going to win you in this court case. And then at the end of the day, regardless of the evidences you have, regardless of, you know, how many witnesses you've provided to speak to the evidence, whether the person had any evidence or witness, the person still comes out of the winner. It raises a whole lot of concerns, deep concerns for Nigeria's democracy, deep concerns for the welfare of the Nigerian people, because it also creates room for lack of questioning on the part of the local government. Remember, for the longest time, we've been having conversations about local government autonomy in Nigeria across the 36 states of the Federation. And one of the reasons why we've not been able to get to that point is because local government council chairmen are literally, allegedly being appointed by, you know, the respective governors of the states that they are serving under. So when you're being appointed, you don't, there have been situations where it's been alleged that local government councillors and chairmen did not buy forms on their own. They did not contribute anything to the elections that saw to their emergence. So when somebody literally handpicks you and puts you in position of power and authority, definitely those group of persons are not going to be able to question the authorities that be in the interest of the people. It is always going to be a yes sir, carry go sir, until the tenure is over. But for us to begin to have that kind of robust conversation, that kind of robust engagement at the local government council level, we need to see politics, we need to see democracy playing out. But that, of course, will also be to the strength of the institution, which, of course, at this point is questionable.
Well, it's questionable, really, really questionable, because it's hard for you to really explain to Nigerians that across all the local governments in Ekiti State, Francis, that everybody was only interested in candidates of the All Progressives Party, both for chairmanship and councillors. You can't tell us that, you know, 5 persons from other parties could not even win the election. It doesn't really come up as true. No matter how, you know, we love the Republicans in the United States of America or the Democrats, no matter how strong they are in certain areas, someone would always break through. I think another thing that is surprising is how illogical the people who are masterminding these things, because I think it's out there on the street. All of us know that there is no free and fair election in Nigeria. The process is not smooth. It's not clean. It's not transparent. But I think it's illogical and really unintelligent to present a party as that solid when we know that it's not true. When you're talking chairmans, you know, chairmans and chairmen, I beg your pardon, and you're talking councillors, you're talking of people who have interactions at the grassroots level. You can't tell us that across all local government areas that the best of these men are, you know, the best of these men and women. We hear that they also had a really strong representation of women. Congratulations. But you can't tell us that across all the local governments in Ekiti State, it is only men of the All Progressives Party that have such a right standing. It is not possible. So there's an unintelligence with which we are running the narrative around elections in Nigeria. And now the question of let's rebrand INEC, let's re-educate the electorate, is going beyond normal, and we don't know where exactly we are going to start. Because, Francis, first of all, this is also a problem of the electorate, as it is also a problem of the electoral empire. So we need to address the issue on both ends: the role of the government, the role of the electoral umpire, and the role of the electorate. It looks like we did a good job at, you know, educating the electorate for the first time in the history of, you know, elections in Nigeria. But some of the off-season election has also shown us that we did not quite achieve a lot. And now is still the best time to keep driving the conversation and pushing. Now, the likes of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar said, let us move a merger, come together as, you know, as opposition and push out the APC. Some other thing that will be important for this kind of merger to achieve is let other political parties, now that the intensity of an election is not here, let them move into the grassroots areas, move into the wards and educate the electorate on what the reality of elections and electoral proceedings should actually be. Let them have a better understanding of democracy before the next cycle of elections come, and everybody that wants to contest has a fresh word to use and brainwash the people to vote for them. We need to keep up with education, because the kinds of results that we are seeing being ruled out by resident electoral commissioners across board shows that there is a lack of understanding as to what exactly the import of these kinds of activities will be. On the reverse, there will be a conversation that, oh yes, APC is at the center, at the federal level, at the center in the state, so it is going to favor. But that doesn't leave room for strong opposition conversations, and to make sure that, you know, the dividends of governance also goes down to everyone.
Well, yeah, the argument of having an APC-led federal government, an APC-led state government is not even enough to suffice for what is happening. And Nigerians will tell you, no matter how much you want to play to the gallery, Nigerians will tell you they know exactly what is happening. You can literally not say that of all the people in Ekiti State and all the parties in Ekiti State, with all the drama and, you know, the twist and turn that happened just before the general elections, that nobody, you know, saw reasons to vote for any other political party. And when you talk about, you know, voter education and voters awareness campaign, yeah, you don't forget that no matter how much you sensitize the voters in Nigeria, no matter how much, you know, awareness and education is being given, it will boil down and will come down to two things: the strength of the institution, of course, the mindset of the people. Now, when the people see that no matter what they do, the institution is already tilted to favor one particular political party, they already know that no matter what they do, at the end of the day, it is literally going to be like, once we announce, if you don't like it as a people, unite yourself and go to court. We'll slug it out at the lower court. Once the people get to that, mindset, there is literally nothing anybody can do to change the narrative. So it will come down to the people just being ready, and then of course the institutions also being ready. And I like to reiterate to you, we are gradually moving in Nigeria to a point where violence would just be the last resort of the Nigerian people to wrestle power from the few members of the society who call themselves the elite of the elites, who are holding this nation captive. And when we get to that point, literally nobody on that cadre is going to be safe. So if they were wise in their wisdom, they should be able to understand that Nigeria is boiling up and the people of the continent of Africa are beginning to rise up. Nobody is praying for a coup in Nigeria. We know that the Nigerian military have, consistently said they're not. But we're not also talking about the fact that we're not forgetting, or we shouldn't forget about the fact that when we're talking about coups, it's not just about militaries taking over power. We're also talking about coups of the Nigerian people, or the people generally rising up and saying, we have had enough of manipulation, we've had enough of marginalization, we've had enough of our rights being hijacked by a few members of the elite cabal at our own detriment for their own selfish ulterior motive. It is time for us to take back our country, and if they're not willing to give it to us peacefully by strengthening our institutions, we're going to take it back by violence. And if we ever get to that point, it's going to be a very serious challenge. Don't forget, Kano State is still boiling as we speak as a result of issues of elections and election related matters. This is just an indication to tell you that the Nigerian people are tired. The Nigerian people are angry. And an angry man knows not the next action is going to take. And you on the other side of receiving, you definitely will not know what is going to hit you. So it's better for President Ahmed Bola Tinubu and his cabinet, the state governors of the 36 states of the Federation, to sit down, the political parties, to look back into their manifesto, look at how they play politics, and prioritize the interests of the Nigerian people, prioritize the mandate of the people. When the people give you the mandate, regardless of what happened, it is your mandate. But when you steal that mandate, even while you are in power, you're not going to feel that comfortable. And it's been stated by analysts and security experts, one of the reasons you find Nigerian politicians, trying everything humanly possible to pilfer from the public treasury to maintain the luxurious life, build high fences around themselves, have a lot of security escorts, is because they don't feel safe. If they felt safe, they definitely will go around mingling with the Nigerian people. So it's time for us to look back into building our institutions. The Nigerian people are ready for the change, but is the government, are the politicians ready to give us that change?
Really serious issue. Is the government actually ready to give us this kind of change that we are asking? We'll go to our very last flash news for this morning, and it's back here in Akwa Ibom State. The conversation of community policing has been, on the front burner for a very long time. I think it was one of these western states, either on those states last year, that was really, really big on running, a state policing outfit. They literally had men a sect put together as state policing. They helped in certain activities with regards to internal security. But here in Akwa Ibom State, as a move to combat insecurity, we have seen the Akwa Ibom State government hire 500 persons. Now, towards curbing the growing insecurity bordering on kidnapping, armed robbery, rape, extrajudicial killings, and other violent crimes in Akwa Ibom State, the administration of Governor Moino has turned to private security agents to complement the regular police in the task of effectively policing the state. Now, we saw 500 youths being engaged in security training tagged Ibom Community Watch Constables, ICWC, Ibom Community Watch Constables. Of course, this is going to be a new security regime in Akwa Ibom State. Now, we saw the inauguration of the group happen at the Nest of Champions, Godswill Akpabio International Stadium. Now, the governor, Umoino, explained that the exercise became necessary in order to rejig the state security architecture to be in a better position to ward off criminal elements, as developments cannot thrive under chaotic atmosphere. Now, a conversation that we can always have around security is the fact that very often than not, when you employ the hands of those that could be responsible for the mayhem in the society, then you would be addressing one of the primary issues of insecurity. Because when you're saying that you are employing 500 youths to be responsible for community policing, we know it's not going to be only the prim and proper young persons in the society who are interested. You have to go into the hoods, you have to go into the trenches of the state and try to bring these people's hands on deck. Tell them that the security of this area, this area, this area has become your responsibility, and we will pay you for this monthly if we do not hear that around this area people are robbed, people are kidnapped, people are raped and all of those kinds of things. And now we would say that this is a good move by the Akwa Ibom state government. We know that there has been several bills moved, at the different states' houses of assembly to make sure, and also presented to the National Assembly to see how at a national level that it can be agreed that community policing is a good, move to make by the federal government and state governments. We don't know upon what premise that the Akwa Ibom state governor is able to do this, if they intend to move this as a bill and accent it into law in Akwa Ibom state. But this is a good move. I'm really trying to remember the names of the Yoruba enclave that was done in Ondo State. Omotekun, thank you very much. They were used at all of last year. They were in the news in their collaborative efforts with the police in the state. I know that certain issues also arose at some point, and then they were stood down. But let us see what are the integral structure put in place by the Akwa Ibom state government to make sure that this move also does not come back to bite us, in the butt. But another thing that this highlights is the fact that this is among the things that Governor Moena had in his Arise Agenda blueprint, engaging the youth of the state in, worthy enterprises. Now, getting active youth, energetic youth who understand the terrain of the state to be involved in the security move and strides of the state is a really, really good one. Akwa Ibom State has been lauded as one of the most peaceful states in Akwa Ibom, in the nation rather. The former governor used it to really praise himself, and we see Governor Pastor Moino trying to make sure that trajectory is maintained in the state. 500 men and women being employed for community policing. Let us begin to see how this is going to be interpreted into more security in the state. Armed robbery is on the rise. Some people will make an excuse for the tough times in the economy, but the problem with these kinds of things is that you're not going to the houses of those who can afford to give you something. You go into the house of a fellow man who is struggling to feed himself and his family to go steal, and it's not okay. So let us see how these people will be appointed different areas, especially also working with the Nigerian police force in Akwa Ibom state to handle some of the very hot spots in the city and in the neighboring communities, to make sure that Akwa Ibom is safer than what was handed over to Governor Pastor Moeno.
Well, the conversations around security is definitely one that we cannot, discard with kids' gloves and, by the waving of the hand. It's very important that we commend Governor Pastor Moeno for setting up the Ministry of Internal Security and for the first time appointing a commissioner to head that ministry. It's been a welcome development, and Akwa Ibomites has been anticipating what the changes and the transformations as a result of the ministry would be to the security of the state. Of course, community policing has been a major conversation. Recently, we saw the state governors beginning to agree with the federal government that there was absolutely a need for that to happen. Just last week, we also saw the Zamfara state governor making a move to institute a state security as a measure to fight banditry and other forms of insecurity in Zamfara state. But of course, with the setting up of paramilitary organizations such as this, there's also concern what are the modalities that were put in place first and foremost to recruit the 500 youths? Are we talking about youths who have been used as stocks by politicians in days past? Are we talking about youths who have been compromised as cultists in days past? Are we talking about youths who are well-to-do or people who have been properly trained, who had no criminal records in the past, who have not been involved in any act of criminality or any unwholesome association as far as the state is concerned and the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is concerned? Now, those concerns are the first concerns that Nigerians, Akwa Ibomites, would raise. If the recruitment process was true, sincere, and we have these 500 youths not being thugs who used to serve politicians who are now given these responsibilities as a way of settlement, then of course we are on the right course. But if this group of persons were cultists, they were persons who used to perpetrate harm under one guise or the other for politicians in the past, and then this is like a means of being empowered, then we are headed for another kind of another form of crisis in the state. Remember, yeah, there was a time in Akwa Ibom, I think that was around 2007, 2008, during the Akwa Ibom's administration, when we had the Joint Task Force at Duma, where we had issues of kidnappings, politically motivated killings and all of that, and Duma was all over the place. Shortly after that, we saw communities moving in to bring in vigilantes to mount roadblocks and protect their communities. But shortly after that period, as the Duma was facing out, we saw that even the vigilantes that were brought in became agents of destruction in the respective communities. They were the ones killing innocent people. They were the ones stealing. They were the ones doing some of the things that they were brought in to protect or to safeguard against. So we need to be careful while setting this up. And there are quite some people who say, yes, congratulations, Governor Pastor Umoino, you are making the steps in the right direction. Congratulations to retired General Koko Essien, you're making the right move. But while you're making this move, let's be very thorough in investigating the background check, in ensuring that all of these people who have been recruited and the ones that will be recruited into the state security apparatus are not people with questionable character, are not people with questionable track record, are not people who have, over the course of their existence, been a problem, or people who have been serving the ulterior motive of politicians. When we do that, and if that is the sincerity of the purpose, then we will be talking about 16 on an average of these individuals posted to different communities to work hand in hand with the members of the Nigerian police force. Of course, picking back on the conversation we've had with SP Odiko MacDon, is also always emphasized the need for that collaboration. So we can say, yes, we might be seeing a different, transformation in terms of security, especially within some axes that we've had, those red zones.
We also have that the state governments and Pastor Umoino put what it takes to, they should drive this into the ground such that no persons can hijack, this ICWR at this time to do anything that is adverse to the dream and the vision of the state government. But this is where we put a wrap on our flash news and we'll move quickly to our major stories.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Of course, it's still Rise and Shine, and this is Monday morning edition. We're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, looking into pertinent issues that have happened in Nigeria over the course of the weekend, bringing you up to speed on all of the scenes, politically, social-oriented stories as it affects the economy and Nigerians. At this point, G20 summit, the COP28 summit, I beg your pardon, has been, quite a big conversation, and there is a big twist to the whole COP28. But let's take a look and a swipe first of all at some of the decisions that were made at the COP28 climate conversations in Dubai. Now, there has been a flurry of announcements aimed at tackling global warming, led by the United Arab Emirates. Now, the strongest conversation and concern here is that some of these pledges that have been made by different countries of the world might actually be blurring the most important issue, which is battling fossil fuels at this time and negotiating a formal COP28 text at the end of these 2 weeks talk. Now, we have also seen that there's pressure growing as the effects of climate change is being seen in different parts of the world, especially in Africa also, and some other parts of the world. Now, there were major funding pledges made by different countries of the world. And for some reason, the United States of America has been blighted for what they decided to donate. More like the world had a bigger expectation of the United States, and the quite didn't come down, to the nitty-gritty of that. Now, we're also looking at the fact that there was a launch of a landmark loss and damage fund to help vulnerable countries cope with the increasingly costly and damaging impacts of climate disasters. This was done on the very first day of the COP28 summit. Now, going to pledges being made by different countries, we see the UAE and Germany pledging $100 million each. We saw France pledging $109 million. Britain, $15 million. We also saw Denmark voting to give $25 million. And $17.5 million was voted and pledged by the United States of America, which is accredited to be the world's biggest historical polluter. So when you say that the United States is the world's biggest polluter and they're giving 17.5 US dollars, there goes the issue that critics are having with Joe Biden and the United States of America. Now we see that different campaigners for the climate change narrative says that this offering by the United States is woefully inadequate. Now the total committed fund as of Saturday, the 2nd of December, stood at $656 million, according to the tally by the Natural Resources Defense Council, which is an environmental advocacy group. Now, this falls vastly short of the $100 billion a year target that they have for developing nations, which has been at least responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. Now, there's a lot of covering of gaps for losses that has been accrued over the years that needs to be done. But we see that at least 116 countries committed to triple renewable energy capacity worldwide by 2030.
Well, it's oftentimes the conversations that we have when it comes to gathering like this. The developed countries have always been blamed for not doing enough, and that is exactly what the United States is showing for at this point in time, just re-echoing the comment of the people of the world that countries, developing countries that have not contributed a lot more to the damage being done to climate are oftentimes the ones suffering. And when it comes to providing the solution or offering the help that is required, the developed countries who have in the longest and for the longest time been the major contributors of the reason why the ozone layer is literally boiling at this moment, and we're having the different unforeseen circumstances and anomalies in the working of the planet are always very backward in their activities. It shows that there is no commitment on the part of the US. It shows that we don't have that level of importance being given. It's literally like it's a general thing that we are all suffering it, so we can afford to protect ourselves a lot more than developing countries can. So rather than focus attention to making sure the planet is safer, a lot more safer for everybody, some developed countries would rather just focus their attention on themselves. But of course, the COP28 is still on, and we do hope with the protests currently ongoing, we'll probably hope to see President Joe Biden, opting the donation made by the United States of America. But of course, moving away, still on the issue surrounding, COP28, the contingents from Nigeria have come under serious backlash, according to the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, His Excellency Peter Obi. And it's a worrisome situation when you look at the fact that a 1,411-man delegation, left Nigeria for the COP28 climate conference in Dubai. And very disturbing is the fact that Nigerian socialite Toke Makinwa is number 7 on that list. And then the first question, the presidential candidate, Labour Party, Peter Obi, asks is, what is the function of Toke Makinwa on the federal government delegation? The last time we checked, she's not an appointee of government. The last time we checked, she was not on any list of, parastatals, agencies, ministries, and departments of the federal government. So, under what ground did she make it to be number 7 on the list? That was the first question. Now, Peter Obi went further to compare the indices, of course, about China's delegation at COP28, despite the vast differences in the budget and human development index, talking about the HDI. Of course, we see that China's 2024 budget is about $4 trillion US dollars, approximately $2,860 per person or per head. And that, of course, with a higher ranking of 79 out of 191 countries, while Nigeria's budget, according to Peter Obi, is about 33 billion US dollars, around 165,000 US dollars per head, with a lower HDI ranking of 163. Now, of course, Obi highlighted the fact that the move made by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is completely against the increase or the welfare of the Nigerian people, spacing forward that the multidimensional poverty that Nigeria has is far exceeding that of China, regardless of the fact that China has the population that is almost 7 times the population of Nigeria. Now, when you look at some of the assumptions and indices and the data put forward by His Excellency Peter Obi, you ask the question, why was there a need for Nigeria to send that huge number of people to COP28? And when you also look at the questionable personalities that have been put, what is the essence of this person? What exactly are the functions that they were going to perform or they are performing at the COP28 that would warrant the Nigerian government spending that huge amount of money at a point where Nigerians are crying for food, for the basic thing as energy, for the basic things as reduction in the fuel prices? Is a serious issue. The wastage in government is just becoming more alarming every other day.
Now, the conversation with wastage is a lot. Now, Peter Obi of the Labour Party likes to tally his numbers and how, against how it's affecting the economy of the country and, the average Nigerian. Now, 1,411 delegates is also the exact number that China took to the UAE for the COP28, summit. But for India, as opposed to what we have as a budget for 2024, China's budget for 2024 is about $4 trillion, which stands as about $2,860 per head. Now, Nigeria's budget is about $33 billion, which estimates $165 per head, as opposed to $2,860 for the Chinese government and the Chinese people per head count. Now, China has a high human development index. Nigeria has quite the same high human index, because we also have the numbers, but yet it's troubling. 1,411 people. Francis, let's talk about how much it is costing the federal government for 2 weeks to have all of those people in Dubai. All of those people, what are they going to be doing? Please, let us have Peter Obi's tweets with regards to this particular situation. Now, we don't have a problem who the president wants to put on his team, but we must be able to rationalize why the likes of Toke Makinwa, who has been the center of the embroilment that we have heard this weekend, is on the conversation. Yes, we know that these are socialites and these are influencers. Is the federal government hoping to use their influence to have the narrative and conversation around climate change when they return? But this is Peter Obi's tweet. He said, in a twist of side irony, let me congratulate the giant of Africa, Nigeria, for marching the Great China with the same number of contingents at the ongoing COP28 in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Nigeria's contingents at COP28 total 1,411, the same number as the Chinese government. There's another tweet there by Peter Obi. Now, this one, it says, most importantly, the vast majority of those in the Nigerian delegation to the COP28 are either non-relevant civil servants or relations, friends and hangers on of the high government officials. Most of them hardly understand or have anything to do with climate change. If this is not worrisome, it is a problem. Remember, it was just a couple of weeks ago that the president said that no longer did he want to see family members and friends attending the FEC meeting, Francis Onyema. For God's sake, these are supposed to be strategic meetings for the federal government and its leadership to see how they'll move the country forward. But for some very funny reason in this administration, family members, friends, and children of the lawmakers had, access to be able to sit while these deliberations were being made. Now we are seeing in the suggestion of, Peter Obi, this same thing reflecting at the COP28, 1,411. How many of these numbers are actually people who are in the Nigerian Meteorological Agency of Nigeria? How many of these people are in all of the agencies that are directly involved in the conversation around climate for Nigeria? We have talked about the fact that, yes, the United States are the biggest polluters, and we are seeing how all of those countries in the Western world is, pledging funds. But what is the role of Africa in mitigating climate change? What is Africa and African leaders going to do for the African problem with regards to climate change? We are one of the worst hit recipients of climate change issues in the world. What are African leaders going to do? 1,411. Let's juxtapose that with, how many numbers other African leaders took. Remember, the likes of Uganda have said we are not even going to have our, public office holders traveling for any international, anything you cannot attend online, leave it, because we are trying to cut down the cost of governance. This is also still emphasizing the wasteful cost of governance, which is also one of the biggest cries of the presidential candidates of the Labour Party. It's something he decried a lot during his campaigns. And we continue to see this level of waste at this time.
Well, it's a serious worry. It's a serious concern for the Nigerian people. It's a serious worry for the developing countries of the world, Africa, particularly Nigeria. And when you look at the huge amount of money that will be spent, you ask the question, to whose detriment? At whose detriment? Who is benefiting? Well, we see public funds being utilized to service, family, leisure, and luxury. When we see public funds being utilized to service the frivolities of people within the corridors of power, the leisure expectations. I mean, if we have to go down to the basics, literally the streets of Twitter is busting up. I mean, we know that COP28 is basically about, creating awareness, having, conversations about proffering solutions to issues of climate change and its relevant matters, of course, around all of that. But when you sit down and look into the challenges, when you sit down and look into the list, you ask, some of the persons who have found themselves in the list of the Nigerian contingent, how many of them have anything close to climate change? How many of them in the past? It wouldn't be a different thing if you said, oh, these people have been advocates for climate change, or they have been influencers who have been using their social media presence to also talk about issues of climate change and educate people on, dealing with issues around climate change. But literally, when you watch the digital footprint of this individual, as far as their content is concerned, you would not find any trace of, advocacy for climate change. You would not find any trace of content that has to do with proffering solutions to climate change issues or climate change related problems. You would not even find them being involved in natural disaster that has happened in Nigeria over the course of the lifespan of this country. Even the last one, the 2022 saga, or even the present one, the 2023, giving voices and further helping, to spread the news in Nigeria. So you would question the wisdom of the federal government. You question the wisdom of the people who were responsible for drawing the list. And then, of course, you also question the wisdom behind the list that, the high delegation. What was the need for Nigeria to match Chinese or China at this point in time. We know that these people are far way ahead. Literally everywhere in China, somebody is producing something that is way, shipped down to Nigeria, and we continue to buy. Rather than try to focus on how to be producers, we are consistently continuing the wastage culture that has kept us where we are today. It's a sorry situation for Nigeria, but as many would say, we are stuck. We have a president, and his president, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and however he runs the government and affairs of the country is his prerequisite, is his right, is his mantle, is his mandate. And of course, until he hands over that mandate, we cannot say we will judge. But of course, what President Ahmed Bola Tinubu also needs to understand is that at the end of his tenure, Nigerians will judge, posterity will judge, and everything will be either for or against his personality. He came to Nigeria as a president. He came with a mantle of renewed hope. His wife literally said they have enough, and Nigerians know they have enough to save, take care of themselves and their families. They were coming to give to Nigerians. So far, their body language, the statement coming from them, the policies moving from some of them is not, pointing to that direction. But we have to watch and see how this would unfold. 4 years is still a very long time. I mean, we've already done about 8 months and still counting, but we'll see how this will go. But this is where we'll take a short pause and, of course, head out to the news brief next, where Mary Joseph is standing by to take us. When we come back, a lot more conversation on Rise and Shine. Just stay with us.
For premium broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news from the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or product visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all the services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more inquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinen Road, Yo Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
As of government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover for the lapses taken into counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. My name is Mary Joseph. We begin the morning news brief with reports that the charge the affairs of the United States Embassy in Nigeria, David Green, has said both countries are working closely as partners to strengthen security and ensure stability in West Africa. Green said this in an interview with the news agency of Nigeria in Abuja. He described Nigeria as a strategic partner to the U.S. given its top position as a regional power in Africa. Meanwhile, the charge the affairs of the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, Dr. David Green, disclosed on Sunday that the embassy has interviewed over 150,000 Nigerians for the U.S. visa, in addition to 30,000 student visa applicants. Green said the mission remained committed to tackling all visa-related bottlenecks. He said when it comes to visa specifically, well, of course, it is a simple fact that the demand for visa appointments outnumbers the supply. In a separate development, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has offered a complete waiver on penalties and interest for overdue taxes contingent on full principal payments before December 31st, 2023. This announcement was made through a statement issued by Dare Adekambi, the special advisor to the chairman of FIRS, Zach Adedeji, on Sunday. The chairman highlighted that the agency typically imposes penalties and interest when the companies fail to fulfill their tax obligations as stipulated in existing tax laws. However, Adedeji noted that forgiveness of piled-up penalties and interest was in recognition of the challenges that many taxpayers have faced in settling their outstanding tax liabilities. We head straight now to the foreign scene where teary-eyed, kefi-wearing activists protested Israel's bombardment on Gaza at the UN climate talks in the UAE Sunday, a tame but rape display in the countries where demonstrations are banned, hindered by UN restrictions preventing them from raising Palestinian flags or chanting certain slogans. More than 100 activists in a COP28 Blue Zone venue managed by the World Body and not local authorities demanded a Gaza ceasefire. Sunday solidarity gathering, the largest yet, still pale in comparison to mobilizations that have swept all the parts of the world since the Israel-Hamas war began on October 7th. And finally, in sport, a retired fighter who knows what it takes to be three-time world champions doubt whether Tony Joshua has the ability to repeat his feat. Joshua is about to fight for the third time in a year, but for the first time since 2016. The contest is out in Saudi Arabia on December 23 against Wade Otto Willian, and following wins over Jermaine Franklin and Robert Helenius already represents AJ's toughest fight of the year. We'll have details of this and many more in our news at 12. My name is Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Francis and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover for the lapses taken into counting.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Glad to welcome you back. In case you've just joined us, this is still Rise and Shine, coming to you live on Spectrum Television. Of course, we're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. And this morning on Talking Nigeria, we have taken a round from Akwa Ibom State, where we talked about the recruitment of 500 able-bodied youths into the state security apparatus to help strengthen internal policing. Of course, they're going to work in partnership with the men and women of the Nigerian police force, part of the rejigging of the security system in the state, which is part of the policy direction of His Excellency Governor Pastor Umoino. Of course, we also saw that Julius Berger has handed over the second Niger bridge officially to the federal government, even though they said the road is going to be fully complete and where the adjoining sectors are done. And of course, we also have conversation around the need for Nigerians to prioritize owning infrastructures put in place by government in their respective communities and move away from active vandalism for that keep us in retrospect. Of course, we also touched light in Ekiti State, where the APC has, taken over all the local government council chairmanship and councillorship positions in the state, raising concern as to what exactly Nigeria's democracy is becoming. Of course, controversy surrounding the Nigerian contingent to COP28 summit currently happening in the United Arab Emirates, as raised by the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, His Excellency Peter Obi, questioning some of the personalities whose name has been found in the over 1,411 delegates contingents representing Nigeria. Of course, also questioning the need for such extravagant spending at a point and time when Nigeria truly needs funds to deal with some of its greatest challenges. Of course, it's at the moment when Nigerians are also struggling to even find food to eat. Of course, these have been the major conversations we've had this morning. A lot more still to come, but right about now, we'll head out to the Dallas Spotlight, where we'll take you around the front pages of our national dailies. Well, on Daily Spotlight, we're starting off with the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of Vanguard this morning, very kickers there says uproar over Nigeria's 1,411-man delegation to COP28. We see the writer there says federal government didn't fund all COP28 delegates presidency. Okay, that's the defense. Obi Labour Party blast Tinubu, say high delegation waste of taxpayers' money. PDP demands roll call cost incurred by federal government delegates. Asks National Assembly to commence probe. UCA commits 100 million euros to assist Nigeria. Others. The story is on page 5 on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Well, still on the front page of the Vanguard, we see National Assembly Committee to propose Commerce Quick Amendment of sections of PIA. The story is on page 12. Niger Governor Aliyu knocks northern leaders for setting region backwards. The story is on page 13. Nigeria's economy begins major shift as oil sector rebounds. Story is on page 19. SJF to Nigeria and skip faith. There is hope for Nigeria. Page 8 as the story. Japa, we interviewed over 150,000 Nigerians for visas in 2023. That's according to the US. Stories on page 25. Still on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, of course, we see how Intel's waived $193 million debt to resolve stalemate over pilotage contract. NPA. I won't benefit from federal government's reinstatement of Intel's contract at TICO. The story is on page 9. NJC names new 11 justices for Supreme Court this week. Stories on page 13. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Moving from the Vanguard newspaper, the next paper is Daily Trust. Big story there, outrage over Nigeria's 1,411 delegates to COP28 summit. Tinubu has turned climate change conference to Owambe, says Atiku. We also see here, it's waste of resources, says Obi. It's outrageous, insensitive, says CSOs. Government funded contingents less than 100, says presidency. Okay. PDP demands refund of ESTA codes. Ask National Assembly to investigate delegation. Trust TV wins Media House of the Year award. Okay, page 38. FIRS grants waivers on tax penalties and liabilities. Page 24. They're still granting waivers. NSCDC personnel brutalize Anambra journalists, say media is Nigeria's problem. That's a serious one that we should take up, Francis. Issues like that should first of all be probed and submitted to relevant authorities, not just going ahead to manhandle a journalist. We also see here UBA wins big at the Bankers Award. 700 Palestinians killed as Israel renews Gaza bombardment. Pope Francis seeks new ceasefire deal. Gulf countries diplomats meet in Doha. We also see here APC Plateau Speaker lock horns over swearing in of new lawmakers. Page 12. Japa, we interviewed 180,000 Nigerians this year, says U.S. Embassy. We also have 3 months after no clue on whereabouts of abducted Zamfara University students. Very sad story, and that's all we have on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Well, of course, that takes us to the front page of the Punch newspaper. And on the front page of Punch newspaper this morning, very first headline story there is Japa hospitals reduce outpatients surgeries as 4,000 doctors migrate. 1,197 Nigerian doctors moved to UK since May 29th. 789 Kano nurses, 162 doctors quit. UTH closes psychiatric unit over lack of nurses. Doctors fold 5% held budget. The story is on page 2 and page 16. On the front page of Punch this morning, still on Punch, budget, National Assembly, 6 agencies allocations rise 40% to 1.4 trillion naira. Page 18 has a story. Over 150,000 Nigerians applied for U.S. visas 2023. Envoy. Stories on page 16. Tax default, FIRS waivers fines, issues 31st December deadline. The stories on page 27. Kano government aide arrested for alleged palliative looting. There's another interesting twist there. The stories on page 14. Of course, still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Kwabom core members in kidnappers den 4 months after abduction, still calling for this relevant government agencies to rise up to the responsibility. We see Ogun Polish student killed in fresh robbery attack. The story is on page 5. Of course, anger as Lagos mechanics car crashes murder 2 children. Stories on page 4 and 5. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of Punch this morning.
Move to the Nigerian Tribune. Big story here says DSS, EFCC, ICPC vet Supreme Court nominees. We also see here NJC unveils 11-man list Thursday. New head of court, judges to emerge. Adele case compliance against Osun CJ under review. PDP knocks Tinubu's climate change summit delegation, calls for NAS investigation. And then the presidency says not all delegates sponsored by government. Give us a list of those sponsored by the government. Let us see plain papers in real time of who was sponsored by the federal government and who wasn't. Don't use a statement to try to cover it up. Well, we also see FIRS waives penalties, interest on outstanding tax liabilities. Page 4. What is the import of those waivers on the Nigerian economy at this time, and what is the reason behind waiving these tax liabilities and to what companies. Big questions, big issues. We also see here Intel's waived $193 million debt to resolve service boat contract, says NPA. Reject Wike's plan to spend 15 billion naira on vice president's residence, Serap tells Senate President Akpabio. 200 lawyers volunteer to assist Governor Yusuf at Supreme Court, page 22. Serious issues here. We also see here experts worry as debt servicing gulp more money than infrastructure others in 2024 budget. Last story here says COVID-19 Reps Committee uncovers more infractions as health institutions make presentations. Page 2, and that's all that we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Of course, next paper this morning will be the front page of the Daily Times. On the front page of Daily Times, we see the kicker there says tension grieves Federal Varsity Gusau. Of course, the story is on page 5 of the Daily Times newspaper. Still on the front page of Daily Times, how inflationary pressure hindered private sector growth in November. Story is on page 4. Still on the front page of Daily Times, we see Obito Nigerian youths do not succumb to hardship. Page 4 has the story. We see Fire God FRC and Kaduna building. The story is on page 4 as well. Risk management vital for Africa's full transition to clean energy. That's according to President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Page 6 has the story. Still on the front page of the Times this morning, specialist urges the rich to assist poor infertile persons with treatment funds. The story is on page 2 of the Daily Times newspaper. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of Daily Times this morning.
We're going to be taking the Nation newspaper. That's our very last paper there. On the front page of that Daily Times, there is a young boy being celebrated here. One of the awardees of the Ekiti State Government event to commemorate the International Day of People with Disabilities, which was yesterday at the Lady Jibowu Hall. Of course, we must make sure that our environment, our organizations, our facilities make room and are very inclusive for people living with disabilities in our society. Yesterday in Akwa Ibom State, we had some of members of this community treat the Akwa Ibom community to really beautiful music at the Christmas park. So the world must be a habitable place for them also. Let's go to our very last paper this morning. We see here the Nation, big story there, Senate, House ready to pass budget 2024 before December 31st. That's of course the new target that we have. Senate, House ready to pass budget 2024 before December 31st. Federal lawmakers invite ministers, heads of agencies, security chiefs, others. FIRS waives penalties on outstanding tax liabilities. Envoy, United States investors excited about Tinubu's economic agenda. Okay, 10 INEC directors out, page 6. Under Council chiefs resume, page 27. UBA is the Bankers African Bank of the Year. We also see NELA stops export of drugs hidden in clothes, dolls, and buttons. Bank screen manufacturers for 75 billion naira palliative loans. So we also see MSMEs, nano firms get conditions to access 200 billion naira facilities. ABC clears all seats in HT councils or good short 3 more companies. These are the major stories that we have on the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning. A plethora of stories. The basic one being the fact that the 1,411 delegates taken to the UAE is a major concern at this time to Nigerians, of course being raised by the presidential candidates of the Labour Party. But we've also come out to see now on the front pages of our national dailies that the federal government is saying that the people that they sponsored to the COP28 summit in the UAE are less than 100. The big question now by Nigerians will be, let us get a comprehensive list printed in national dailies. Let us see those that were sponsored and those that were not sponsored by the federal government. When you say you sponsored less than 100 people, the other 900 plus people, we have to also understand the rationale behind wanting to attend this particular summit, especially if they are not strong advocates against climate change, if they are not working in non-governmental organizations that, you know, advocate for climate change and all of those kinds of things. These are conversations that we really need to look at. But a plethora of things, you know, happening also. Political conversations are not also out of it. But by Thursday, we see that there's going to be the review of nominees for the vacancies at the Supreme Court.
Well, of course, you know, getting the new appointment that will be announced, we do hope that, you know, bringing 11 to 10 will take the number to about 21. That would be a good start for the CJN Olukoyede Riwola, who's trying to ensure that, you know, for the first time we are able to have enough numbers. But of course, at this point, Nigerians are also advocating for an increase from 21 to about 50 to have sufficient, you know, number of justices to be able to preside over the backlog of, you know, different litigations that are pending in the court that might not be dealt with in the next 15 years, as experts have said, you know, before expiration of those cases. Of course, a lot of issues happening within and outside Nigeria, and we're going to dwell a lot more about. This is where we take a pause and head out to a short break. When we do come back, we'll be returning with our guests, and of course, a plethora of issues we'll be looking into. Just stay with us.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine this Monday morning, and we're looking at a plethora of issues. Our guest has joined us virtually this morning. We have Victor Onomo online with us this morning. He's a public affairs analyst and asks you to one for that matter. Good morning, Victor Onomo. Thanks for joining us. I don't know if we can have Victor Onomo's audio. We seem not to be hearing him, but we have Victor Onomo, and we'll be looking at certain issues, 3 pivotal issues that we've already introduced on Rise and Shine this morning. The fact that Akwa Ibom state government has recruited 500 youths for state security. We need to look at these and its imports on the Akwa Ibom state economy and the Akwa Ibom state security architecture at this time. A conversation that's also really burdensome. In the last 3 months, we've had core members that were on their way to youth service camp that were abducted. We have not seen the state government of Akwa Ibom state give any response or say anything directly to this particular issue. 2 tranches of buses leaving Akwa Ibom state for youth service have been abducted in recent times. The second tranche was released. The first tranche still remains in abduction. What exactly is happening? What's the responsibility of the federal government in this and that of the Akwa Ibom state government? These are some of the things that we hope to look into this morning with Victor Onomo. I don't know if we have him online now. Hello, Victor. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Spectrum. Good to be with you this morning.
Very good to have you. So, of course, we've already done your introductions. We didn't know that and we had lost you for a bit there. Thank you very much to your contributions to the conversations of our great nation. But this morning, we want to look at this 500 recruitment done by the Akwa Ibom state government for internal state policing. On the general note, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is a really good move by the Akwa Ibom state government? And do you think that it's going to move security forward at this time?
Well, I don't see, other than employing people, paying them salary, I don't see much different coming out from that. Akwa Ibom state is made of about 31 local government. And so many villages, thousands of villages. So how that 500 people will add value to a population of about 7 million people is still, I am in doubt as to what that can do. See, last time I was speaking with some government officials and I said, look, the only solution towards ending most of the security challenges we have is a synergy between the communities and God. You have youth leaders in each community. There's no community you don't have youth leaders. Now, are these youth leaders identified by government? Can we get feedback of what is happening in terms of community in their own areas? These are the things that are cardinal. But to say you bring on, what are you talking about? 500 is not even enough to take care of Uyo. So what happened to the rest? What about happened to the coastal areas? Most of the challenges we're having in security here, borders on the coastal areas. This is where the real kidnapping takes place because of the easy access to escape by these kidnappers. The entire Eastern Obolo cannot be guarded by 2,000 people, and we are here talking about 500 people. I am not excited about this, and beyond, if it is not a mere political patronage to, I wouldn't, since I don't have available information on that, because what we see sometimes is that you just bring in these people, call them security. Sometimes they were electoral, they were used for political reasons. The question now is, how have these people been trained? What is security findings on the so-called security people employed? With the rates of cultism we are having in this state, there are a lot of questions that ought to be answered. But what I'm telling you is that going by the numbers, Going by numbers of people employed, it is in short, that is like just employing people to guard a house.
But
so
this is an initiative. It's not like they're employing the 500 to take up the responsibility of the Nigeria Police Force. They are like an addition just to aid the process. So don't you think that if they split 500 across the 31 local government areas of the state and still add it possibly to the vigilante initiative that most communities have, you don't think that it's going to have an impact on security in the state at this time?
That is even conflicting. You have what you call vigilante, and you are employing this other security, and this one's going to bear arms. So what's the difference between these ones and the vigilante? What I'm trying to say is that all we need is proactive security anchored on intelligence gathering. And how do you gather through intelligence? Is creating a synergy between communities and security agencies. Now you go to a community, call the youth leadership, the village head, tell them, look, if anything happens in this community and we don't have proper information, you will go in for it. So naturally, the people will give information. Unit is merely political because it adds no security value. So how dare you say you have you are employing 500 people, you have vigilante? How do you synchronize their operations? That is one question we also need to ask. So what I'm saying is that going by number, they are the Hunters Association or whatever. What are the rules of the Hunters Association? You have a vigilante or what you call a community police. It is some of the boys you employ into the community police. Do you go to the road? What do? They don't do nothing. Some of them are being used as tax collectors by the police. The police now go down, go to the background and send these boys. See them hanging around drivers and collecting money from them. If you want to compare what I'm saying, go to Okobo on Sanatai Road. Those boys you call community police, what do? When you stop vehicle, police use them to collect money from drivers. So we really need to be very serious when it comes to issue of security. So in all, I'm telling you that I am not excited by the employment.
Okay, so let's have a holistic conversation around community policing in the first place. We have seen that at a national level, we've been trying to push this conversation to get the federal government to buy into the initiative with regards to how insecurity has spread nationwide. We had the Ametokun of Ondo State in the west of Nigeria, an initiative of community policing also. Do you think that if this is well done, that community policing should be embraced by the federal government and state governments should be given the ample room to be able to, recruit people to serve in this capacity? Do you think that we need community policing, or we should just re-engineer the Nigerian Police Force and all the other agencies that we already have in existence?
It's at this juncture we can see the visibility of having state police. So let us define police. Let us have, it's better we have state police than to keep deceiving ourselves with all these things we are talking about. You look at Ebubeagwu has failed in the southeast. Is it not clear? Most of the problem that happened in Ebonyi with IPOP originated from the management of Ebubeagwu. What has Amotekun achieved in the southwest? We have seen a relative improvement in the areas like Ondo State, but has that stopped all the kidnapping you are having around here? So the failure of some structures like a partial failure of the Amotekun and the Ebubeagwu in the southeast clearly tells you that government cannot do what government should do is amend the constitution, allow for state policing, let state employ their police. So the mixture of the confusion being done here is not welcome at all, because this is absolute confusion. You have a Hunters Association you are parlaying with. You have what do you call them? Community police. you have a vigilante. Man, this is absolutely. If you go, the other day I went towards Uyaro Junction, and I saw that even the vigilantes, they are not trained. They are rude. You just get there. They pack you the usual crude manner of policing a community. You are packed. You must part money. You must part with money before you drive past them. These things are almost being causing nuisance. Why are they causing nuisance? Because those brought in as those vigilantes are not people who are sincerely eager to protect community, and they are not properly paid. What happened? They are only people who are familiar with politicians who can come to rescue them if they are taken away by the police. So the whole thing is not in order. That is my problem. It is not properly structured.
Okay, it's not properly structured. We still have to have that conversation around structuring. Let's move a little bit away from the conversation around state policing. Another issue, Victor Norma, this morning is that for about 3 months now, we had some Akwa Ibom corps members on their way to youth service camp that were abducted. The problem that we have this morning, the biggest problem that we have is the fact that we've not heard the Akwa Ibom state government led by Pastor Omoino give any statement. I have personally looked out for it. I've looked forward to hear it. In the last 90 days, these persons that were abducted are still in the coffers of their abductors. Why hasn't the Akwa Ibom state government taken it as a responsibility to make sure that they do all that it takes to get these people out? Like I said earlier in our introduction, we've had 2 tranches of buses leaving Akwa Ibom state and the transitors being abducted. The second one, they were able to get those people released. I'm sure the family members had to pay a lump sum. But what's happening with the first tranche of people that were abducted? And why are we having no words out of the state government or even the federal government? Because when we are talking about corps members are the direct properties of the federal government of Nigeria.
Nigeria is very big. Nigeria is a vast landmass. And to me, I weep at the reaction of Akwa Ibom state government towards the plight of these people. Now, federal government may know, but who pushes for it? These people are Akwa Ibom going to serve Nigeria. Now, in course of this, they are being kidnapped. It is even Governor Moino has the right to lead a delegation to Zamfara State and Sokoto State to demand or make a strong press statement to demand for the release of these people. Now, few weeks ago, Udo Miriam, the Nigerian this key player, was kidnapped. That musician. How long did it take him to be released? Not only that, a Reagan, a businessman from Oron, is in kidnappers' custody. Why is Akwa Ibom state government so silent about this? So allowing those children to wallow there is a very big minus on the side of the Akwa Ibom state government. It is bad. It is an act of wickedness. It amounts to not caring about the people. Government is about welfare of the citizen. Government is about security of life and properties of the citizen. Government is about the people. So when the government looks away while the people suffer, so Governor Moina has no excuse whatsoever not to address these issues more than 100 days later. So it's sad. Imagine the kind of trauma the people will be going through. Imagine the kind of problem and the feelings of the parent. Put yourself in the shoes of those parents. This is a crime to serve Nigeria. So this is a very sad scenario, and I join for Nigerians to call on Akwa Ibom state government and the federal government to immediately swing to action and get these children and get those coppers released.
Okay, at this point, the most we can actually do is continue to lend our voice and hope that we'll have Governor Pastor Moino do something, at least move a delegation like he said, and collaborate with the federal government to make sure that we have these people return to celebrate the Yuletide with their family. Victor Norma, I'm going to poke your mind in just about 1-2 minutes concerning something that has been trending on the national scene this weekend. The subject of 1,411 members going with the president to the UAE for the COP28 summit. Now, the problem is, why go with 1,411, most of which do not have any direct import on the climate change conversation. Now, on the front pages of our national dailies, we've seen the presidency come out to defend themselves that they sponsored less than 100 people to be in attendance at that event. Now, we are comparing the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, compared the fact that we went with the exact number that the Chinese government went with, but we are nothing close to the economic stance of that particular government. Do you think that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made a good move by this? We literally saw socialites that have nothing to do with climate change conversations on his delegation.
Well, if the people have roles to play, as long as that place is concerned, if the people have roles to play, I have no issue with that. I will only have issue if they have no role to play, because going to that event is not a tourist. It's not a tourist event. It's a event. It's a very serious event for business discussion. If the presidency have actually sat down to analyze the number of people they need, their concern, there is not some set of people who go into energy discussion, others may go into economic revival discussion, some will go into diplomacy and economy. And when we talk about delegation going, it's not as if this delegation will go and sit down on the round table with the president for discussion. They have roles to play. So if they have roles to play, there is no problem about that. All we want is a revived economy. Well, on a side of Peter Obi, I know some of these politicians have not recovered from the last election. So until after some time, they will be able to sit down and get their psychic together and do constructive criticisms. So President has his own reason for doing that, but let us not waste our money on boggy delegations if they have no role. They have no role to play. But if they have a role to play, even if it means moving 1 million Nigerians to solve Nigeria problem, I do not have issues with that. But if it's just a mere jamboree or people going to see how Qatar looks like, or how, living in Nigeria to enjoy fresh air outside, that would be quite senseless. But then the presidency is just in, and in a long, for the last 3 months, we've seen President Bola Tinubu has always has done so much in terms of going around the globe negotiating, and it's been fruitful. We saw his visit to Germany. We see the reciprocation by the German chancellor, and I think that is to seal the Siemens deal on electricity. So some of these things count in. So I'm neither going to align with Peter Obi's position nor the government position, because I know Peter Obi and Atiku will still have some years to do a lot of criticism. But when they criticize, they should give alternative view, because that's the problem I have with some of these politicians. They criticize, you don't see them with alternative opinion. They will come to say this is bad, if it were this. Tell us what should be done. That is why we have opposition.
All right.
Opposition is an alternative government.
Okay. Thank you so much, Victor Onomo, for coming on Rise and Shine this morning. We absolutely appreciate your time and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. We do hope that the federal and state governments can take some of the suggestions and help us run and give us a more robust government. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's the much we can take on the Monday morning edition of Rise and Shine, looking at very serious conversations. Be sure to keep abreast with all the content brought to you by Spectrum Television, and keep safe at this time of the year. My name is Uyayanek, and until we return to your screens tomorrow, stay safe and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.